Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Make sure you download the app and use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. Happy Tuesday. Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody Demundo, and Ryan Herrera from home getting ready to head out to Arizona for pitchers and catchers reporting this week. So he's getting ready to hit the airport. And we got a good podcast for you today. I'm having all kinds of technical difficulties. Cody's got the show on his laptop. I can't even see a rundown for that. So here's what we have. We have the Hayden Wesneski interview, which when we show you, there's going to be some video connectivity issues with it. So the audio version of it will be fine. We'll try to cover it up with some stuff because every once in a while the picture is freezing. It was the first interview we did at Cubs Convention, and we've been trying to get it to sync up and work correctly. The audio is fine. You're going to love it. He's awesome, and I think he's going to have a big season. So that's coming up in the podcast. We also have the PECOTA projections, which are snubbing the Cubs and flipping them the bird on Valentines Day. By the way, happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. We love everybody, and we also love that you are going to subscribe to the CHGO
if you love us
YouTube page.
Yeah.
That's if you love us, that's what you'll really do. And then if you really love us, after you go ahead and subscribe to the CHGO page on YouTube, then you'll also go ahead and give us the 5 stars and the thumbs up and give us a nice review.
Yeah, on your podcast platforms if you can't watch us on YouTube every day.
Right.
Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to us, appreciate it.
And yes, Garrett, the like button would be smacked for the show. We would appreciate that. If you love Hayden Wesneski?
For Hayden Wesneski, yes. Hit it for him and hit it for the future of Luke's computer.
Please. I don't know what's going on with it. I can't get anything. It's the spinning wheel of death. I've tried everything. Every login, every reset you could possibly do. I thought I was being punked. That's what I really thought was happening.
Rhonda says, which, by the way, she always says hi, and I appreciate that. But she also says, congrats on 25K, which we hit on YouTube yesterday.
Yeah, we hit 25,000.
Yeah. So shout out to everyone who has already subscribed and is here every day. Tell your friends.
I don't know how fast we should be moving on that, but I would like to see us hit 30,000 by opening day.
That'd be a...
Right? Let's add a few more.
That's a good goal.
Good goal.
That's a good goal.
I think that's a
30K,
good goal.
and by the end of the season, when the Cubs are in the playoffs, screw you, PECOTA. When the Cubs are in the postseason, then I would like us to be like 60.
Yes.
I'd like to double, triple it.
Absolutely.
So we'll see. Gary Ross says Ryan looks serious. Well, he's focused on his trip.
Focused.
He's got a big trip coming up. He's thinking about In-N-Out for dinner when he gets there late night.
What a burger.
What a burger. Yeah, that would be the move.
Yep, that's a good move, Ryan. That's a veteran
absolute
move.
Correct move.
Go there. What time's your flight get in?
It'll be late.
You got to delay if you get there after 11 p.m. You know, the honey butter chicken biscuit is on the menu.
I didn't know Whataburger had moved into Arizona.
I didn't know that either. But Hub Chub, 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. Got to take advantage of that time frame.
That is a big move. Anyways, PECOTA projections came out today, and we've talked about different projections for this team. We gave our own, and we all set the bar. I won't say we all. I set the bar myself. You guys sort of agreed with me a little bit, saying 500 is the mark. Like, I at least want them to be, if they're not 500 this season, I think it'll be a disappointing season. I guess if somehow they were a game under 500 and still made the postseason, fine, I'll change my mind about that. But that would be amazing. But heck, everybody gets into the playoffs mostly this time. So I think 500 is a key figure to look at for this team. PECOTA projections come out, and they say slow your roll a little bit. Now, I do remember a while ago, like right after the Cubs had won the World Series, maybe it was 2017 or 18, they had the Cubs in like third place. Last year, PECOTA, I believe, had the Cubs
71
behind the Reds and the Pirates, correct?
Yeah, they got 71 wins last year.
Take this for what it's worth.
The other year you're talking about, I believe, was 2019.
2019, they had them
really
winning.
Low. Yeah, they had them winning 79 games in 2019, and then they ended up winning 84. Still missed the playoffs, whatever.
Yeah, but it was because they didn't like – they thought the pitching staff was old, and they didn't think it was going to hold up. This time, I don't really know why you would say PECOTA has them third in the division. They have the Brewers winning the Central, the Cardinals coming in second, And Ryan, how do you explain I guess I can find a scenario where I see the Cubs in third. I don't see a scenario where it goes Brewers, Cardinals, Cubs.
I think it all comes down to the pitching. I mean, it all comes down to like Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff and Freddie Peralta having a healthy season. Like, I mean, they have Eric Lauer, who became a Cy Young contender when he went to Milwaukee somehow. Adrian Hauser, even Wade Miley, like they have a really, really good pitching staff. And when we talk about it with the Cubs, right, like pitching and defense is what's going to help the Cubs win. It's probably the same thing up in Milwaukee. But they do have, I think, on paper, a better lineup than the Cubs. It's up for debate for sure, but it's close. I think they still have a little bit better of a lineup, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't know how. I think we all kind of considered the Cardinals to be like the favorites in the division, but PECOTA obviously has them. Was it like 0.1 games? Like it's like 87.6 and 87.5, something like that. So PECOTA sees the Brewers in a different light. And
87 and 84 for the Cubs.
Yeah, so PECOTA has them in a different light. Like you guys mentioned, like 2019, I thought like everyone's like, oh, that 79 win projection felt so low. Like this team has been to the playoffs every year. They're going to blow past that. And then like, I think it was like not until the last week of the season-ish until they finally passed up the 79 wins. So PECOTA knows something we don't know. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but I did not expect it.
They knew the Cubs were going to go on a 9-game losing streak to end the year. That's what they knew, somehow, some way, because that's how it happened. They were winning the division heading into September, and then they just completely collapsed. I can't believe that we're talking about it. It still gives me pain.
But this is a computer program, right?
Right.
Like this projection is done by a computer. I just don't. I don't see it. And who
the
was
nerds
in this?
love it.
Somebody had a great thing in here. The Dash Law says, "What are the PECOTA projections?"
Shout out to Law. That's the
PECOTA
Law dog right
projections.
over there.
Listen, I don't.
Listen, I'll talk myself.
I'm
into
not
90
putting
wins.
a lot of stock into this. I'm really not. If they finish with 77 wins, I don't see any way you would say this was a successful season. You would have, if they finish in third again with 77 wins, it's a disappointing season.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they got to at least win 80 for me to, I guess, be accepting of it. I know that's only 3 more wins, but whatever. We need improvement from last year. And I know 77 would be more than last season, but still like I'd like to at least finish 500 at the very least. So you guys know how I'm like the gambling guy here, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, so I am when too, I saw,
since I've been winning.
When I, as someone who never forgets and never forgives, and someone who takes things to heart.
That's right. Receipts.
When I saw Milwaukee #1, I was like, "Oh, this is a spite bet right here." So I went to DraftKings and I was like, I went straight to the teams to make or miss the playoffs, and I went down to Milwaukee. They have Milwaukee at -120 to miss the playoffs, which means that for them to make the playoffs was at +100. So DraftKings Vegas does not agree with what PECOTA is telling us.
I trust Vegas.
So, as someone who has lost some bets and have looked back and I'm like, how did that happen? My experience tells me that Vegas knows things.
That's right.
I'm with you. I don't agree with this. At the very least, it should be St. Louis in first and then Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee's going to be selling at the deadline, so I don't see this.
I'd be even more mad if I was in St. Louis and I saw the projections.
Oh, for sure.
How could you be in St. Louis? Even as a Cubs fan, I can sit here and say, well, I don't know how you would project the Cubs to finish ahead of the Cardinals unless something goes wrong with the Cardinals. They clearly have a better team on paper than the Cubs. I'm not saying it can't happen, but then to put Milwaukee of all teams up there, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm at the point when looking at this stuff, they like Milwaukee's pitching and they don't like St. Louis's pitching because the Cardinals' pitching is the only thing that might hold them back. There's not a lot of depth there. There's, they got some dudes like we talked about it before. Like if Flattery stays healthy for them, that takes them to a new level. But yeah, I mean, you look at their lineup; it's significantly better than any other team in this division. There's no doubt about it. I hate them saying that out loud on a recorded audio and video, but that's just a fact. But then, obviously, Milwaukee has the better pitching in this division. As far as high-end number one starters, I mean, Woodruff could be a number one on any team. Peralta, I think, could be a number one on any team as well if he stays healthy. Ryan's not wrong when he's talking about the pitching when it comes to Milwaukee. They just don't have offense, in my opinion. Like, and their offense was the reason that they completely collapsed in the second half last year. And they didn't really change anything to their team going into this year outside of trading for William Contreras, which fine, but they also traded Hunter Renfroe away. They are relying on, just like the Cubs, they're relying on some of their young guys to, step into a role and kind of, take over some of that offense that they traded away. And with the pitching that they have, yeah, they're always going to be in games. But just based off what I've seen the last 2 years, they rely on the pitching way too much. So I don't see them winning this division.
And speaking of the Cardinals, by the way, did you see the pictures of Wilson Contreras reporting and putting on the – I don't want to bring it up too much.
First off, how dare you?
It was a little bit of a kick to the stomach.
Yeah.
Again, I'm fine with the way the Cubs have decided to go. I like the two catchers they have because they want to go defensive-minded. They want these pitchers to have the best game callers, framers, all those things. I'm not saying anything bad about the way the Cubs are moving about at the catcher position, but it's weird to see Wilson Contreras in a Cardinals uniform.
Yeah.
Strange, and we're going to see it plenty of times.
I think the Cardinals Twitter account tweeted, "Oh, he looks good in red," and I was like, I almost told them to fuck off, but
almost. Well, you just did, but
I just didn't.
That's another.
And someone tagged me in his Instagram post, and I almost blocked that guy, but I was nice. Big of me.
Wouldn't you be mad if you were a Cardinals fan, Ryan, or a member of the Cardinals, and PECOTA was saying, "Nah, you're second place. You'll finish ahead of the Cubs, but not the Brewers."
Well, yeah, and here's the thing: it's when I think PECOTA is like counting on some kind of regression from Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. I think that's part of it. I think the loss of pitching and no real additions is part of it. Adding Wilson helps that lineup for sure. Don't know how it affects we won't know until we see it, how it affects the pitching staff, but they did lose. I mean, I know that Quintana was big for them down the stretch, lost him. Wainwright's a year older. He wasn't very good in the second half last year. They still got Miles Michaelis, who, if he can repeat his all-star season, would be good for them, but he's old. He's like 33-ish, 34, something like that. Jordan Montgomery was good for them. He wasn't like Cy Young caliber, but he was a good pitcher for him. But I do think the lack of additions on the pitching staff and I don't even want to say expected regression from Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, because those are both such good players that you can't just off the bat expect them to regress. But I do think maybe those projection models are just projecting them to regress a little bit, because those guys are really good, but even having back-to-back MVP caliber seasons is tough. It is possible that they regress even a little bit, even if they're still all-stars. Like, regression can still happen. I just go back to the Brewers, and I think, and I know, Cody, you like to compare Yelich to like Cody Bellinger, which is, as far as like guys that were former MVPs who aren't living up to what they could be, is fair. But Christian Yelich was still a 111 WRC plus last year. Like, the fact that the guy was 11% better than the major league average, and they're still saying like, oh, hopefully he could bounce back this year. Like, a bounce back for Christian Yelich would be really, really good for them. Same thing with like Willy Adames. I think Willy Adames is one of the best. If you're comparing their lineup to the Cubs lineup, like, I don't think he had a great year last year, but he still has potential to be one of the best hitters between both lineups. I don't know. It's all about the projections, and baseball's weird. I get what you guys are saying as far as on paper going into the season. The fact that the Brewers are projected by PECOTA ahead of the Cardinals surprised me. But when I think about it, it's a lot. I think that PECOTA really, really likes the Brewers pitching and how they project, especially with you hope they hope Freddie Peralta has a better year or a healthier year. That obviously helps the Brewers a lot. I think the consistency of the Brewers pitching and the lack of addition on the Cardinals plus potential regressions, I think just overall that it still doesn't make like a ton of sense to me. I'd still would project myself the Cardinals to win first place, but I guess I could see the side of PECOTA that's why the projections are where they are. The Cubs finishing third, like Luke said, isn't out of the realm of possibility. It probably is like even maybe one of the more likely scenarios. Like I think we said we could see scenarios where they take over the Brewers or win second place somehow. But I don't know that we can expect that. But to see the 10 games, almost 8 games, whatever it is, difference between them and the Brewers and Cardinals is a little shocking to me.
I can see a scenario where I'm not giving percentages. I'm just saying I could see a scenario where any of those teams finish in first place. Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, the Cubs, the Cardinals, or the Brewers, I just think, like you said, the percentages and the way it looks on PECOTA seems wrong to me.
When you look at the Cardinals' win total last season, they won 93 games. 93 games, and you had 2 MVP candidates.
Yeah.
93 games is a lot of games, but still, they got in because they won a division.
The Cubs weren't even trying part of the season.
True.
In the front office, the players are trying on the field, but when you trade away all of your bullpen in the second half, you're not trying to win the division.
True. So maybe that's another way that PECOTA is looking at it. They won 93 games. They had 2 NL MVP candidates, and they only won 93 games. You think if you have 2 MVP candidates on your team? I mean, the Cubs in 2016 had 2 MVP candidates, and they won 103 games.
But they have replaced a horrible catcher with a good catcher.
Fair.
See how I set you up for that Yachty rant?
I appreciate that. So, I think the Cardinals, just right now, you take my Cubs hat off, I would take the over on Cardinals over the 87. I would take the over on that. But yeah, their pitching does kind of leave me wanting, or thinking, there's some regression that's due not only from their offense but even their pitching. I mean, Wainwright's been throwing to Yachty Molina his entire career and he doesn't have him anymore. And the whole reason the Cubs let Wilson Contreras walk is because they don't like him as a framer or a game caller, along with the rest of the league. And as much as I love the guy and as much as I wanted him to be here, the Cubs chose a path, and we're going to see this year if that was the right path.
Right.
He might hit for them, which that wouldn't surprise me. He's 31 years old and he's healthy. He probably will hit for them, but will his presence behind the plate end up being an issue for them
if he catches?
Which at this point,
could just be DHing a lot.
That was the reason he went there, is because the Cardinals wanted him to said that he could be the catcher, because the Astros were interested and they wanted him to play left field, or DH,
right,
and occasionally catch. That was actually reported out there. So, the Cardinals, they will go as their offense goes. There's no doubt. They got guys all over. It's not even just Goldschmidt and Arenado. Tyler O'Neill once hit 30 home runs. Lars Nootbaar, he's a creative player. I don't understand how he's so good, but whatever. Jordan Walker, he's a number 5 prospect in all of baseball. I highly doubt that he's not going to be good. I doubt that he's not going to be some sort of addition that helps them. You know what I mean? They have good depth in the outfield. They really do, and it makes me mad. And then Tommy Edmonds, no joke either. He's like their version of Nico Horner.
Right.
So they have good position players. It's their pitching that I would not. It's
old.
Yeah. It's
old
and just
old and banged up.
Yeah,
good but old and
it really will make a difference if Flattery is healthy and he can give them 30 starts. If Flattery can give them 30 starts and is healthy all year, that team is going over 87 wins.
So I saw a clip from Marquee. Was it Instagram, Joey? It's David Ross talking about how fast players have been arriving down in Arizona. Again, pitchers and catchers don't have to report today, but not just pitchers and catchers, position players have been down there. So this is from Marquee and their Instagram page. This is David Ross yesterday. Hold on one second. I don't fully hear David Ross. I see David Ross, but I don't hear David Ross. Mm-hmm. He does look good, although it does look like he's sort of wearing tights.
The video's on Twitter, too.
Here we go. All right,
There we
Joey's
go.
got it. Joey's got it. He's rusty. He's been doing the Bulls, and that's a lot of downtime lately.
Yeah.
In more ways than one, that's been a lot of downtime.
A lot of
Bulls.
downtime.
Here we go.
Boom.
So you guys see that, but I know they got here like a month ago. It's ridiculous, man. These guys, I mean, Cody, as soon as he signed, he was here the next day hitting in the cage, working with DK. Wow. I mean, yeah, like these guys are hungry, man. And there's a lot of guys out to prove stuff. There's guys that are, just signed contracts or coming to new teams. There's guys that are really excited to put on the Cubs uniform and help this team win, help bring a championship back to Wrigley Field. And the fact that Nico's here early, guys have been checking in. Madrigal's been here. Justin Steele moved out here. Like a lot of guys are just like really invested in this facility. It's a great facility. It's a great environment out here. The weather's perfect in the off season to we'll get your work in. And these guys have been doing it for a long time. I know the cameras see it now, but these guys put in a lot of work.
I fully understand that. There's Joey. Well, we wanted to get Joey on. Everybody asked for Joey in the chat.
They always ask to show you.
That was only one time.
Listen, I know what else is he going to say.
Yeah.
But I believe him that guys have been there all offseason. We know Kyle Hendricks has been there pretty much the whole offseason. He said Justin Steele has basically moved there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then after Cubs convention, we saw videos on Twitter pop up of guys out there.
Instantly. Tyone was there right after Cubs.
Right.
Some of those guys went
Bellinger,
from Cubs convention straight to Arizona.
Right. And you'll whether David Ross is saying what he's saying just because what else is he going to say, you got to love that the guys are getting out there early and wanting to prove these people wrong. They got something to prove. They're hungry, like you said. One thing I saw yesterday that we didn't talk about yesterday's show was that Brennan Davis was there. Jordan Bastian from MLB.com posted a video of him doing batting practice, and to me, that is huge, absolutely huge news.
Where do we get a slow-mo picture of him hitting a home run that everybody can go crazy over? That'll be exciting, too.
All I know is that he's healthy. If he's taking batting practice, that means that he's healthy for the most part. So I'm excited to see what he does this spring. And, you want to talk about the Cubs win total going over 77? It could go over 77 if Brennan Davis comes up not only earlier than what we may expect, but also produces. So, we'll see. But I think 77 is, considering the Cubs do have a lot of questions, I do think it's fair, I guess, in a way. Like, if they would have projected them for 85 wins, that would have been weird.
Cody, you know how I feel about computers. I don't like them.
I don't like them either.
I don't like them, and that's why I'm taking the over. I'm going over their 77, clearly they didn't listen to David Ross's pump-up speech right there on Marquee the other day.
I agree.
All right, the Hayden Wesneski interview is coming up after a couple quick ad reads, but we want to tell you about some of our partners that we're really proud to be hooked up with.
Absolutely. Ryan, you can do Game Time. I'm about to do Green Ridge Farm.
Very nice.
Luke would be doing one of these, but his computer
I can't read
is
my
a mess.
empty computer.
Yeah, so Green Ridge Farm is a Chicago local meat and cheese company offering you a better all-natural option. Makers of all-natural deli meat sausages and their famous meat sticks. Did I do that right, Luke?
Meat sticks.
Perfect for tailgating, happy hour, school lunches. These all-natural meat sticks are hardwood smoked for 8 hours with 16 grams of protein per stick. I know Ryan likes that. That way he can bench more than 275
Well,
or whatever.
he's got a whole backpack of them packed up for the trip.
That's how he's getting bigger every week.
Out on the field, just snapping meat sticks.
They make perfect for a post-workout snack. Meat sticks come in chicken, Black Forest beef, and flavors like jalapeno, cheddar, and spicy chili. Haven't tried them yet? You don't know what you're missing. Delicious because they are made from recipes generations in the making, and being all natural, they deliver a fresh and flavorful alternative at snack time. You can always find them in the refrigerated section at Costco, Sam's Club, or in your local Chicagoland grocery store. Right now, when you order any 3 meat products at greenridgefarm.com and include a pack of meat sticks in your cart, those meat sticks will be free simply by using the code CHGO at checkout. Greenridge Farm, simply natural meat.
Luke, I don't know if you heard the news about the boss is playing at Wrigley Field.
I saw that, yes. And as a matter of fact, I sent a message to one Chuck Garfine, who is the hugest Springsteen fan I have ever. He sees him 10, 15 times a year. He just went and saw him in Dallas, he said. And all the message said was, even the boss loves the Cubs over the Sox. Send.
Well, there you go. You struck me as a big Springsteen fan, but like now you and
I'm not
Chuck,
at all. No.
Podcast that Bon Jovi was better
Bon
than
Jovi's
Springsteen.
better than Springsteen.
And Corey Friedman flipped
fair enough.
out. He was actually talking to me about
Corey-
this like a week ago.
Corey almost left the podcast.
He almost got up and left the show.
If you gave me Springsteen is playing outside of Wrigley at Gallagher Way and Bon Jovi is inside, I would go inside for 100% and listen to Bon Jovi over Springsteen.
I hope you just muted it for like 5 seconds, Corey. That's it.
Well, pass the message along to Chuck then. All right,
I will,
If he
yeah.
wants to go to Springsteen, Wrigley Field,
Yeah.
you should check Game Time for his tickets.
That's right. Oh, yeah,
Game
absolutely.
Time. Game Time is the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. You ever dream of sitting in a seat you never thought you could? The 50-yard line, courtside, behind home plate, floor seats at a concert? It's possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you thought you could never buy. You won't find a better deal this season on Cubs tickets. Spring training starts soon. I think it's 11 days till the first spring training game. About a month and a half until opening day. You won't find better deals on that. You won't find better deals on the Bruce Springsteen show this summer. You should go to Game Time if you really want to go to any of those. Go check out Game Time. It's created by the fans for the fans. Game Time guarantees the lowest price. If you love CHGO, then you'll love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description. Join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all your favorite events.
Yeah, I don't know what the other concerts are going to be at Wrigley Field, but if somebody
Fall Out Boy.
Fall Out Boy.
Morgan Wallen.
See, now, if I think I saw that Foo Fighters are going to go with Blink.
Ooh.
Is that who they're touring with this summer?
That's
And anyways, that would be one that I would see if it was at Wrigley. There aren't too many bands that I would need to see at Wrigley Field anymore because all of my bands are starting to get old. See, if Smashing Pumpkins went to Wrigley Field, I would 100% be all over that ticket for Smashing Pumpkins at Wrigley.
I've been to one concert.
If you gave me a free ticket to see Springsteen, I might go.
I've never seen him, so I mean, you give me and Luke 2 free tickets to Springsteen, I guess we'll go.
Yeah, if you guys want to go on Game Time and donate them, we're
Yeah.
looking at you, Michael Collada.
I'm looking at you, Collada.
And
we'll
Barbara.
donate your money to Ricketts afterwards.
Barbara's always buying people free tickets.
Yeah.
She's always trying to get me to buy free drinks for people. Barbara's going to buy everybody free tickets to Springsteen.
The one concert I've been to at Wrigley was Florida Georgia Line, Nelly, and the Backstreet Boys on their stadium tour. They went back in 2019. It was for millennials. It was great. I assume. So yeah, that was one.
Yeah,
And I really
Pearl Jam
do.
at Wrigley a
I
couple
really
times.
do want to go to Morgan Wallen this summer. I was talking to Casey about it last week. She was because my girlfriend's not a Morgan Wallen fan, but I am, and Casey is. So I was like, Casey, we should go. We can use Game Time.
Ooh.
So.
By the way, I heard somebody say that they're like, I think it's been confirmed Rihanna is pregnant after the halftime show. What part of the halftime show were you still questioning whether or not she was pregnant? Like, she was clearly pregnant. She was showing her bump, and she was moving like
Yeah. She was
she
so
was
far
barely
up.
moving. I was terrified for the woman being up that high.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
this could be awful if this doesn't go right. But yeah, I at the Super Bowl party I was at on Sunday, undoubtedly we're all the entire time we were like, is she pregnant?
Oh, yeah. I mean, clearly. She came on. I was like, she had it zipped down to show the
Yeah.
bump.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways. Again, PECOTA wasn't listening to the David Ross
No.
interview yesterday, and PECOTA certainly wasn't listening to the vibes you're going to feel coming off this Hayden Wesneski interview. So this is Ryan and I talking to Hayden Wesneski at Cubs Convention, and let us know what you think. First of all, great guy. Hoping he has a great season. We're here with Hayden Wesneski, Cubs pitcher, and first of all, super excited to have you on the podcast, and we are thrilled to have you on the Cubs because I remember sitting during the season last year watching your first outing as a Cub, and the first 3 pitches lead to a strikeout, right? And Wrigley Field erupts. And as we're watching that, do you process that as a player and kind of try to soak in that moment, your first moment as a Cub, or do you take time after the game to try and soak all those things? I would think as a human, it's hard not to soak in the moment just for a second.
Yes, I mean, of course. When a lot of that is when you jog in, right? I had a long jog in, and you kind of look around, and to be honest with you, I try not to get caught up in it. I know it's really hard. In the big leagues, there's a lot of distractions.
Yeah.
But I don't think it got to me until after, really. I know that my friends and family, but I knew I had a job to do. I was excited. I mean, I was ready for it. And a lot of it helped because I was playing the Reds. I played against a lot of those guys coming up. I wasn't facing Bryce Harper, Alex Bohm, JT Ramirez. I wasn't facing like big time guys. I was facing the guys I've been coming up with. So they are big time, but I knew them. So it wasn't as nerve wracking in my opinion. I know that's kind of sounds a little bit crappy, but I really it made it easier because I knew them. And so it was like, okay, you're a human. And that's where it was, I think it worked out well.
And now that we're a few months out from the season, obviously you were up pretty much all of September, had a few outings in relief, then you started. Have you taken the chance to reflect on that first month in the big leagues and how that, all the experiences and whatever you can pull from that as you kind of go forward going into 2023?
Oh, yeah, you definitely take the experiences and you kind of take notes on how to do it. I just have to be able to do that for a full season. Saying that, people tell me all the time how good it was, and I to be honest with you, it was only a month. Like, I know it's really cool, and my friends and family love it, and I go to places and they tell me about it, and it was only a month. I'm hoping to do that for a full year, maybe 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where you have to put it into perspective. I'm more of a long-term guy, so I would like to do that in the future, and we'll see. I've kind of reflected on it, but people will tell you how good or bad you are.
Whether you want to hear it or not.
Yeah,
right?
no, 100%. I mean, Cubs Nation seems to hide it a little bit better than where I came from with the Yankees, but still, they will tell you how bad you are. You're good, how good you are.
But you were really good because your ERA was under 2 in those 4 starts late in the season, right? So you get that taste of it, and then you head into the offseason, and while the team's success wasn't great, your individual success with the Cubs was very good. How do you approach an offseason as now you're up to Cubs convention, you'll be heading out to Arizona for the first time with the team. How do you approach an offseason when you've had that first real taste of success with a new team?
You kind of try to figure out what they want, right? So let's start with that. Like, hey, I got to talk to Tommy, I got to talk to Daniel about what do we have to do this offseason to get ready for the next one, right? There's a lot. I've heard different things about spring training and trying to make the team. Biggest thing I've heard from guys that actually make the team is you got to act like you're fighting for your life, and that's kind of at the point I'm at. Is like, hey, I'm not set in stone for a starting rotation spot or even in the bullpen. You know what I mean? So I could be sent to Des Moines, and I know that's realistic, and I know that's not what my friends and family want to hear, but it's real. And so that's kind of the sense of urgency you have to have during the offseason is, hey, you haven't earned anything. You gave yourself a chance. You walked in the door. Now you have to be able to do something with it and try to give yourself the opportunity to start for a full year.
Is that also sort of the message they expressed to you at the exit interviews, knowing that you had a good successful month, but there's still work to be done going into this spring? What is kind of the plan, I guess, that they
told me they would like for me to start. I mean, they didn't. So Scotty was really good, right? They're not going to just trade a really good pitcher for a guy that has a bunch of question marks in the AAA, it's just to fill the same role, right? Scotty was doing a really good job. So why would they do that? Well, it's because I think they told me they wanted me to start, and I'm hoping to start, but it is what it is. But back to the question, they told me basically be ready to throw a good amount of innings this year, whatever that means. They told me, hey, we want you to keep adding, and my goal is to keep throwing more and more innings every year. It's a hard thing to do. But I started to figure out you have to kind of figure out how to stay healthy. But the biggest thing was going into that meeting, we didn't know we were going to sign Tyon and all these and Smiley again and all these guys. So it was kind of like one of those things where you're one of the few ones left, so we kind of need you to throw. Now it's kind of, hey, I mean, we'd like for you to be on our team, but we got some guys now. We got some dudes. We're going to go. I think we have a chance to go win. And I'm excited for that, and because losing sucks. I'm going to be honest with you. I hate losing. I've been on a few losing teams, and it's not fun. But so that was kind of the message they gave me, hey, you have a chance to do it. Go earn it. And we want you to pick up innings, but, it's not given.
But, Hayden, I feel like that could put pressure on a young pitcher, right? Or anybody in any young setting in any profession where you're trying to prove yourself early on. but watching you on the mound, I don't want to blow smoke your way, but you have a presence. You're on the mound. You got a little swagger to yourself. How have you dealt with pressure at other levels, at other times in your life? How do you avoid that kind of nervousness? Not that you wouldn't be nervous, but how have you dealt with the pressure in the past?
So let me start with this. I get nervous every time I pitch. I'm just going to throw that out there. It's real. I've gotten nervous since I was 10, 11, 12. I get nervous, right? So I've started to be able to control it. I will say this. I probably put more pressure on myself than anybody else really can. And so that helps because I know that if I don't do it myself, it's one of those things where it kind of pushes me to where the point is like, hey, fans aren't going to affect me because I know that like that pressure, it's all on me. Like I feel like I put more pressure on myself than other people do. And a lot of the stuff is you kind of figure out how to deal with it, right? So you have a routine that checks off a lot of the nervousness. Hey, I'm gonna do this, and this, and then I'm gonna go, and it's gonna be a good day. And then confidence comes with it, and then I do a lot of like breathing stuff that helps me out. You don't understand how important breathing is. You just talk to people, and it slows the game down. Again, and you try, and I have fun doing it, and that's something that I think that's really one of my biggest advantages is I enjoy doing this more than a lot of other baseball players do. And so that is something that you would think that's, oh yeah, that's everybody. No, it's not. It gets, 180 days. Yeah, I hate my job too sometimes, but I know that sounds crazy to all you guys, but sometimes I don't like my job and it's fine, but I enjoy it more than I think a lot of other people do. And I think that's where I get the swagger and the fun. And I hope that I do portray, and I hope I'm fun to watch because that's a lot of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Real quickly, to go back a little bit, you mentioned kind of the depth. You mentioned Jameson Taillon. Obviously you guys brought back Drew Smiley. Looking at the depth that the Cubs have as far as starting pitching goes, all the guys that are still around you, obviously, what excites you about that, and what does that bring out in you, and what might that bring out in you in spring training as far as a friendly competition between everyone, kind of trying to make that rotation?
Yeah, we're really deep when it comes to starting pitching. I mean, you name those guys, and then you're talking about Hendricks, Steele, Thompson, Caleb Killian. Like, we have a bunch of guys that can go throw really well at the starting spots. And I'm missing Adler. Like, Assad, like, you're missing all these guys, and we have 10 guys that can go start for a big league team. It's one of those things where you can pick brains with them. You can kind of see what they do a little bit, and then, yeah, it pushes you. I mean, it's one of those things, we're all wired the same way. So it's kind of one of those things, you either be the big dog or, hey, you don't. And so it makes everybody a little bit better. It's one of those things where you would think you would hate each other, but honestly, we enjoy our company. It's a fun little group. I'm excited for it, but they kind of just push you. It's more of a learning thing rather than just like butting heads.
Whether it's developing another pitch or refining one of your pitches or finding the perfect control, what's the one thing, if you could pinpoint one thing that would help you have the type of success that we know you want to have this season?
I'll probably say it probably has nothing to do with like the pitches and stuff, because a lot of the pitches from outing to outing, I walk in, I go, hey, this is my game plan every time, but sometimes I don't have my slider. Sometimes I don't have my fastball. So I would say it's probably nothing like I'd probably say it's the confidence thing. Like, hey, if I have confidence the whole year, I have a pretty good chance of pitching in a Cubs uniform. And then I would say just the focus part, like be able to on soft and hard focus. And so if I can do those two things, I think I have a chance to pitch in the big leagues for the whole year. And
while we still have a couple months, or about a month, I guess, until you report to spring training, what I guess is last minute, like things you need to accomplish between now and mid-February so that you're ready to go in as soon as you get to Mesa?
So I'll say probably I need to have better catch play. My catch play's been hit or miss. I need to ramp up. My arm's not completely ready to go throw 5 innings, right? I threw my first bullpen the other day, and I'll tell you right now, it was like, oh my, it's like I haven't thrown in years. So, so there's that. And for the most part, I'd say just get mentally ready. I'm going to say this, but I'm not ready to go to spring training yet. I'm still enjoying my family and my time off, and and doing things I want to do, go do an escape room with my family, or go hunting with my dad. So I'm got to get mentally ready. I think once I start going and get driving to Mesa, it'll warm up and I'll get ready for it. But just right now, just get mentally ready just as much as physically.
I got a very important question before we let you go, and that is, what should the Bears do with the number 1 pick? If you're sitting, I know you're a football guy.
Okay.
If you're the Bears, and we assume they're going to trade back, first of all, they have the option of trading Justin Fields. They have the option of trading back. If they trade to like 5, who would you take? Like, who's the guy on that board? I mean, they need everything.
So
like your Texans, they need everything. And thank you for that, by the way.
I'm hoping the Texans do the same thing with this. I'm hoping they trade back. You got to keep Justin Fields. Justin Fields is not the issue. It's either you didn't coach him right, or you don't have enough weapons, or you're not getting help up front, right?
Yeah.
So you don't trade Justin Fields. That's not even an option. You move back to, I guess, the Colts are at 5, right?
Sure, 4 or 5, somewhere in there.
Maybe you grab a D tackle. I'm telling you, you look at the Eagles right now. They have, I mean, you could do the Justin Fields with Jalen Hurts, and then you have front 7 and an offensive line that kick butt. Like, just roll with that kind of formula with them. I think you move back. I hope the Texans do the same thing. They move back, grab as many picks as they can. I saw a thing where it was talking about the last like 4 or 5 times people moved back from the top 5 picks. And one of them was the Dolphins, and they moved back, and the 3 people they got was Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and another first-round pick this year. So I'm telling you, and that was one of the medium-sized ones. The other ones were like, I mean, that was a really good one, but like the other 4 were like obvious check marks as well. So I was looking at it and I was like, man, I'm really hoping the Bears and the Texans both move back, because we, like you guys, need a lot more stuff as well.
Just tank one more season. Caleb Williams should be around.
Yeah, we'll take Drake May.
He's a huge football fan.
Yeah, I got that vibe.
Yeah, he likes his football, and I think he likes the competition when he's in Arizona too. So looking forward to that. We'll talk more about that interview in a second. We want to remind you about another one of our key partners, Hong Kong Tees.
Yeah, Goose Island. I was at the Blackhawks takeover on Friday.
And you went to the tap room?
We went to the tap room, and I had nothing but Goose Island that night. Ooh. And that is why I woke up Saturday just feeling incredible, because I had Goose Island the entire night.
It's good beer.
It's good beer. You know, CHGO is supported by Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer since 1988. They got the Blackhawks Pale Ale, which is a limited release. You got the Bulls City 312 as well. I like the beer hug. I think that's what it's called. The
yeah.
It's
the green can, isn't it?
It's like teal.
Yeah.
It's like a teal color. There's like 3 or 4 different flavors, but it's all part of a series. You got the Bourbon County Stout, the Christmas IPA, Beer Hug IPA series, like I just said, the Green Line. Green Line's popular, and of course 312. What's your favorite beer right now?
Matilda. Really like the Matilda.
Ryan, what about you?
I'm always a 312 guy. I think for forever 312 is my thing. I'm excited to try the rest of them. I haven't yet. There was that. Was it like that? The whatever one that Herb had at the Blackhawks game a couple weeks ago. That was like 9% alcohol or something like that.
That's the beer hug.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe I won't try that one, but 312 always has a special place in my heart.
Beer Hug Tropical. That's the one that's 9.9. I've had them here on this set, and after the show, I was feeling pretty good. So anyway, Goose Island's 2 local locations are open and ready to welcome you. Grab a beer right from their innovation tanks at the Goose Island Tap Room at 1800 West Fulton, or get a smash burger and a fresh beer of the week at the original Clybourne Brewhouse at 1800 North Clybourne. For reservations and pickup, go to gooseisland.com/locations. Goose Island Beer Company.
By the way, I saw that we had Joey had the poll up during the Wesneski interview. Will Hayden Wesneski have a starting spot in the rotation by the end of the season? Right now, 92% of the votes say yes. I think that's a little low, to be honest with you. I really feel like he's going to break through this season.
Yeah, I
liked what I saw in the short time that he was pitching for the Cubs last year.
Yeah, I think if the Cubs go over the 77 win total, I think Hayden Wesneski is that wild card that propels them over, because when you do these season projections, just like some of the other guys we've had, like we talked about Keegan Thompson last week, Justin Steele beforehand, all the projections, like Steamer, they don't like any of those guys, and they don't like Hayden Wesneski either. So if those guys outperform those projections from those sites, then I think the win total for the Cubs is definitely going over 77. And we saw just it was only 4 starts last year, but he even said that he didn't feel nearly as nervous just because he got to face a bunch of guys he was already facing in the minors.
Yeah.
Which, whatever. I'd rather him go out there and shove against whoever than not shove.
And that was also just his first game. He
Right.
appeared in other games after that. I just appreciated his honesty, saying every time he steps on the mound, he's nervous.
Yeah.
There's some sort of butterfly. And some people might say, well, that's a sign of weakness. I would disagree. To me, that shows how important it is to him, that every time he steps onto the mound, he's taking it so seriously that he's getting some sort of butterflies, and he's so amped up that he's, the great ones then can calm that down before the game actually starts. And when the first pitch comes out of his hand, that goes away. I'm not saying that doesn't happen for him. I just like the fact that he knows that each time he takes the ball, it's such an opportunity for him personally that he gets a little butterfly. He gets a little bit nervous. If he didn't have that, then I'd question whether or not the guy had the drive and desire. I question whether players have the drive and desire to actually be their very best.
Yeah, I agree.
If they're not pushing themselves that much mentally to make themselves a little uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah, and I think that he's kind of the wild card for the Cubs in terms of their overall success because, we've talked about it. It ends this offseason last year. In the first half of the year, starting rotation was awful. They couldn't get you deep in the games, and there was a lot of injuries. I mean, Albert Alzolay didn't even start the season. And going into last year, we thought Albert Alzolay was going to be like a number 3 starter on the team. Now we're like, oh, he's bullpen for sure. And the Cubs have, they got Tyone. They brought back Drew Smiley. Adrian Sampson, was awesome. So, yeah, he's probably not going to start the year in the rotation. But as we saw last year, injuries happen. And so when he gets his opportunity, I think he has that chance to come up, and I'm not saying he's going to shut it down 7 innings every night, but really give the Cubs some production that I don't think a lot of people are seeing unless you've been following since last year.
Right. Ryan, what do you think? Where would you put his ceiling for the season, and where would you put his floor?
I mean, as far as ceiling, I don't know. I mean, maybe if he ends up being, he comes up. Here's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start with this actually, is that he kind of mentioned that he still got to earn his spot. He's going in the whole fighting for his life kind of thing. My gut tells me that unless he has a really, really good spring, my gut's telling me he's going to start the season in Iowa just because of the depth of major league pitchers, starting pitchers that they have. And, I think we can agree their top 4 of Tyone, Stroman, Steele, Smiley's kind of set. And again, my gut kind of tells me that someone like Sampson probably gets that 5th spot, so that instead of moving Hayden Wesneski to the bullpen on the major league roster, get him in Iowa, keep him on the starter schedule. He could certainly force the issue and make himself the number 5 starter, if not more than that, if he has an awesome spring. But, I think my gut is still telling me that if we were to start the season tomorrow, if tomorrow was opening day, my gut tells me he'd probably start the season in Iowa, but that's what you got 6 weeks of spring training for. As far as ceiling goes, I mean, if he can get you that mid rotation, a really good mid rotation starter this year, that would be great. It is, still technically his rookie year, so there are going to be bumps and bruises. He had a great month last year in September, but teams are going to start getting more data on him, better scouting reports. Those rookie struggles will happen because they happen to everyone. It's not anything that Wesneski does wrong. It's just that teams adjust, and then young pitchers like that have to learn to adjust back. But if you can get somewhere to be he comes up, I don't know, after a few weeks or a month in Iowa or something, if that's what happens, comes up, has, a good, not, obviously not an all-star season, but a really good season where he sets the building block that this is going to be one of your guys in the rotation for the long haul. I think that's a really good season. As far as his floor goes, I think the floor, he looked really good again, but it was a small sample size. I kind of compare it to I don't even want to compare it to Caleb Killian because Caleb Killian had a shorter stretch in the big leagues, but he was one of those guys that was talked about all year. Got his shot, and he had a solid first start, but then struggled and didn't come back up once he went back down that second time. I think like a floor is like if that happens to Hayden, that's not out of the realm of possibility for Hayden. No one wants to think that way, and I think he'll be better than that. I think once he comes up to the big leagues, he'll have, or if he starts in Iowa, which is my gut telling me, once he comes back up to the big leagues, he'll stay up. He'll have a good season. That's my expectation. I don't think he'll hit that floor, but I think there's certainly a scenario where he comes back up, he struggles, and gets sent back down just because they have so many starting options, right? Like there's a scenario where that happens, and that's the floor to me. But I think he'll have a better season than that.
I agree with that. Like the floor could be bouncing back and forth between the two, A, because of the way the roster is built, and B, because young pitchers go through that. But I think it's way more likely to be at the end where Ryan is talking about, where, best case scenario, if he, as a rookie, he's able to work his way up to middle of the rotation. Guys, remember, that would be jumping like 4 spots to get there. Like he would have to jump in the rotation, and this isn't saying anything about his skill level. I think he's good enough to do this, but right now, the way it stands going into spring training, and he said so much in the interview himself, saying, I know I might be going to Iowa. That's, my family probably doesn't want to hear it. My friends don't want to hear it, but that's also a reality. That's why I know I'm fighting, quote unquote, for my life every time I go out. Now, if you consider that eventually we believe Kyle Hendricks will be healthy, if he does indeed start at Iowa and Sampson is potentially the guy that begins the season, the rotation, okay, well, now he's got to climb over Sampson, and he has to climb over Kyle Hendricks. Mm-hmm. There's not one spot he's got to climb over if he starts in Iowa. There's potentially 2 he's got to climb over. Maybe someone else gets hurt. Maybe someone else isn't pitching up to their level. That's all possible. And I just don't know. If the Cubs. That's why I asked him, do you think you're a starter? Do you think you're a reliever? Because we've seen that the Cubs like to use the plan of Steele and Thompson starting as bullpen guys, working their way up to being starters. Okay, I could see him in that role, but they have multiple guys in that role. And when they tell a guy in his exit interview at the end of last season, even though he had the injury, or at the end of the season, they say to him, we want you to be a starter. We want you to pitch a lot of innings. To me, that doesn't sound like a guy that they think is going to start in that hybrid / role and try and break in. It sounds like you're either beginning at Iowa, we're going to leave you stretched out, and you're going to be the first guy up, or you're going to be so good in the Cactus League that we have to give you that rotation spot over Sampson, and then we have to, when Hendricks is ready to come back, we have to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
Which is best case scenario for him. He beats out Sampson so clearly that the Cubs have to look at it and say, you know what, he's ready. We have to give him the shot. We give him the rotation. And when Kyle Hendricks is ready, if he's pitching well, then they're going to have a tough decision, which would be the best thing for the organization.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, related to projections, Steamer doesn't like him that much. They have him pitching 74 innings this year and only making 13 starts. But then you look at Zips, they have him making 21 starts, pitching 106 innings. But the ERAs are pretty close. Zips has him at 4.58 ERA, and Steamer has him at a 4.54, a 1.2 F WAR for Zips. But yeah, I feel like it's going to be somewhere in between there because. Yeah, I'm with Ryan. I don't know if he starts the year with the Cubs. And
that's what Craig's asking in the chat. Mm-hmm. He's saying Hendricks isn't going to be ready. Why wouldn't Hayden take that spot? I think a lot of people believe that unless he doesn't look good in the spring, the Cubs will give that opportunity to Sampson.
Yeah,
but we don't know that.
We don't.
No, that'll be an early question for those guys, and you may see that play out in early Cactus League action.
Mm-hmm. I think Sampson.
That's who it's probably.
That.
He probably has.
Yeah.
But that's where the position probably comes down to with Hendricks not being ready is Sampson and or Wesneski. It probably is the best battle for Cactus
And-
League action the Cubs have.
And he's
Luke,
never.
Cody. Luke, you mentioned you mentioned that you've been talking in the chat or whatever that potentially Wesneski starting the season in the bullpen, right? Like that's obviously a scenario. He starts in the bullpen. They kind of keep him stretched out a little bit. So if things go awry, like at least he's
Possible, yeah.
I don't know if that's the way I would go about it. When I think of that, I think of like the Brewers and how they've successfully did that with a few pitchers. Like Corbin Burns is the number one guy that did that. Corbin Burns. They're kind of on that same track with Aaron Ashby, where they bring him up. You know, they have him in the bullpen for a while as he get adjusted to the big leagues, and then obviously Corbin Burns is the Cy Young candidate every year now, right? But his first 2 years, he was mainly a reliever. But when I look at it on the Cubs side, I don't see. I know they've done it. They did it with Steele. They did it with Keegan. But with the starting pitching depth that they now have, I don't know that I see them going that route with Hayden Wesneski. I do think if he doesn't start the season in the rotation, there's a very good chance that he ends up in Iowa to start the year.
I was going to say that he's never pitched over 100 innings in his professional career.
Right.
So, that's a sign to me that he probably will start in Iowa just because, we've seen it with other guys before. Like, you can't just, throw them into the fire unless they're, real special talents. And I'm not saying that he's not a special talent, but I guess he doesn't have the hype of Mark Pryor, for example. You know what I mean?
All he can do is go out and pitch great in the Cactus League and let the Cubs go ahead and decide.
I would absolutely love for him to just go out there and mind blow everyone in the Cubs front office and Cubs coaching staff, and they just give him the spot. But I also feel like it's okay if they don't, because again, the Cubs' strength, in my opinion, is the depth in the starting rotation. All you got to do is go look at what Adrian Sampson did for the Cubs last year. He was one of the more consistent guys that they had in the rotation. It was so consistent that made you wonder why they even DFA'd him to begin with, and then got lucky enough that he came back. Like, he was very solid for them. He's a very solid back of the rotation type dude. And Drew Smiley will be probably a solid number 4 in there as well, to go with Tyone, Stroman, and Steele. So again, like we keep saying, injuries happen. He's going to get his chance. Would I be okay if they put him in the bullpen to start the year? Sure, I'd be great with that too. But I also, given what everyone has said about him, it sounds like he's more likely just a starter no matter what, and they want to keep him stretched out. So I think he goes to Iowa to start the year and, is up fairly quickly.
And of course, the most interesting thing about the rotation will be the mid-season edition of Shohei Ohtani, but that's another podcast.
Also, I mean, the trade for Efros continues. Like, at this point,
it looks like
you're
a great
feeling
trade.
really good about it. Not that I wish injury upon
No.
someone, but Efros has had Tommy John, so he's not even going to pitch this year for the Yankees.
Even if Efros was great, it still feels like you have a guy that looks like a starter with good stuff and swag.
Yeah,
that's more important.
struts.
That's more important than the position that Efros had. Not that it wasn't important; he was great, but they've been able to fill that role.
Yeah,
they haven't been able to fill starting roles. That's what they're looking to do.
Right.
Okay, before we go, it is Valentine's Day. Give me something you love about the current 2023 Chicago Cubs.
They're hungry, like David Ross said. They got
good.
something to prove. Everyone's doubting them. I love being in this scenario. When you have expectations, most of the time you never actually hit them, unless you're the Dodgers. But you know what I mean. Like, I'm not saying the Cubs are gonna go out there and win 90 games, but they have to be seeing these projections and what everyone is saying about them, and taking that to heart in a way, and saying, all right, let's go out there and show them what we can do. And I love that video that Marquis put up of David Ross, and I am actually really excited about this team. I talked myself into last year's team. If this team doesn't win 77 games or goes under 77 games for wins, I will be shocked. So,
Ryan, as you head to last time we see you before you'll be in the desert, what do you love?
Yeah. I mean, I think the number one thing should be the pitching depth, right? The starting rotation depth is, in my opinion, is the fact that we're even having this conversation of, can this prospect come up and win a job? This guy who did really good in his however many starts he had last year. Can he come up and win that starting job, or will he start the season in Iowa? When for so many years it was like, okay, who are the Cubs going to go? Which starting pitcher are the Cubs going to go buy to add to the rotation because they can't develop any starters of their own, right? Like now you're seeing it the other way around where they're actually developing starters who are battling for jobs on the major league team, and still might not win it, right? They still may not win it and still might start the season in Iowa. So I think if you're a Cubs fan and you're talking about Valentine's Day and what do you love, it should be that starting pitching depth, because right now it feels like a big narrative shift from where it's been the last decade.
I've got 3 quick ones. Seiya's new physique, I saw somebody saying in the chat. That's a good one.
There you go.
I love the combo of Thompson, Steele, and Wesneski. I like those 3. But number 1, up the middle, Nico and Dansby. That's what I love about this Cubs team. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing. The all-hair team, the all-defensive team, and hopefully one of the best middle infields in all of baseball.
It feels like this team's got some swag or some attitude about it.
I think a lot of people are counting them out just because of past years for the Cubs.
Yeah.
But I think this team is different than last year's team.
I agree. I think that they'll definitely, at the very least, be a lot more competitive. At the very, very, very least. So I'm excited. 44 days, man, till opening day.
Cody's ready to be hurt again.
I'm ready to be hurt again. Hey, before we get out of here, can I say one thing?
Yeah.
All right. So as everyone knows, I went to the Harvard of the Midwest, Eastern Illinois University. Unfortunately, the fraternity I was in, they got shut down because of recruiting issues. I guess they'll be done at the end of the semester. I know some of those guys listen to the show, so I just wanted to give them a shout out, because without them and my college experience there with those guys, I don't think I would be here. So I just want to give them a shout out.
My fraternity at Mizzou shut down too, Cody, a couple years back. We got kicked off campus, so I'm with you.
Rip.
ZBT Texas still going strong.
Anyway, all right. So Ryan will be off in Arizona tomorrow. Safe travels to you. Looking forward to great content coming from AZ. We'll be back tomorrow. Corey Friedman's going to join us as well. And I want to thank everybody for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Make sure you download the app. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. Happy Valentine's Day. Pitchers and catchers almost here. Until then, fly the W.